All right, welcome back to a new episode of Spoken Truth. I'm Chaz,
I'm Denny.
I'm Tunde.
and we're going to be breaking down all the latest NBA playoff storylines. We're going to talk about Lakers Warriors game one from last night. Also get to the Knicks Heat and then Suns Nuggets later on. But first, we're going to get going with the 76ers Celtics series. So, Danny, why don't you give me some of your initial takeaways from that game one as the 76ers went into Boston and pulled out a 119-115 win?
Turn back the clock, James Harden.
Yep.
Um, an incredible performance. I can honestly say that's probably a top five, maybe top three James Harden game that I've seen in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think he gets a bad rap of not being able to perform like his normal self in a regular season compared to playoff. I'm not getting into all the analytics and statistics about that. But I do think Philly's still in game one. And now we're going to talk about game two now. But as I said before we, started recording, that I believe that winning game one, still in game one from the Celtics, where it looked like they were going to win that game, was huge for the 76ers. It swung the home court into their favor. Now they have the home court advantage. I believe, whatever case may be, that's a win. You go back to game three on your home turf and you put everything out on the table when Joel Embiid coming back for game three. But obviously, we all know that he's playing in game two. He looks, obviously, he's going to be a little slower because of the injury that he has now. So he looks like he's having a hard time keeping up with the pace that Boston is trying to run. So Philly is doing a good job at slowing it down at their tempo. That way he can keep up with their pace and what they're doing. Um, so that's a little bit that I see from this game so far. But game one, I just feel like Boston let their foot off the gas. I think they took this team a little light that they didn't have. Now we know the MVP of the league playing, and they thought they could just cruise control and win without giving really any valuable effort. I believe their coach did not make the proper in-game adjustments that he needed to make, specifically when they were getting into that fourth quarter when Philly started to close that gap on their lead. I don't think he made the proper adjustments at that point in time to kind of stop the bleeding. Not saying that you have to double Harden. I know some coaches are kind of selfish when it comes to doubling superstars and doubling players. But at that moment in time, I think Harden should have saw a little bit more of a double team in that fourth quarter than he did. And then if he was going to cook, by any means, he was going to cook. He was going to score the fifth ball. So if he was going to do that while getting double teamed, then I can live with that. But I don't like this model of we saw it with Bud doing it. We see it with Steve Kerr doing it sometimes. Double team the best player, the team's best, the team you're playing best player. And at that moment in time, it was James Harden, and they did not do that. The Celtics, I believe, they take this game a little more serious because Joel Embiid is there, and also because you don't want to go down 0-2 going back to Philly. That's not it's not an impossible task like you were talking about earlier, Chaz, but it's one of those things that if you can avoid it, don't do it. Like let's be smart here. So I think the Celtics win game two, as we're currently watching now. I think they win game two, and then this series go back to Philadelphia 1-1, and we take it from there once we get to that point.
Yeah, I don't know if this is exactly a must win for the Celtics, but it certainly feels like it. Up 23-18 late in the first quarter. But Tunde, I want to get your thoughts on that James Harden performance. 45 points, 7 of 14 from three, 17 of 30 from the field, 6 assists, game winning three-pointer with what was it? I think like 15 seconds left in the game. So that was like a vintage Harden type of performance, one that we haven't really seen that much in the playoffs. Tied his playoff career high. So what did you see from that, Tunde?
Uh, man. So yeah, Harden was great. It goes without saying. The 45 points, the increased offensive burden, and specifically on scoring with Joel Embiid out. Took it on the chin. A phenomenal job. He attacked switches. He still made plays, but you got the scoring from him that was necessary. Um, I do think I want to say this is the second opponent in a row. So we saw this in the first round, and then in the second round, and now here in the Eastern Conference semis. This is the second straight opponent we've seen with Boston, where they're taking Jaylen Brown. They're forcing switches because Boston wants to switch everything. They're forcing switches and waiting until they get, the switch with, their best perimeter scorer on Jaylen Brown, and then attacking him in pick and roll because, you know, his screen navigation is generally not particularly good. And in this playoffs, it's been, it's been bad. There's no other way to put it. So I mean, I think that for me is where I say that they've pulled the wrong strings. They're attacking Jaylen Brown in pick and roll, and really more specifically, it's been the Jaylen Brown Al Horford combo, and up to this point, those guys aren't really holding up the way that they probably need to for this team to win a title. Um, So that's something I look at going forward for Boston. I'm going to have an eye on. That'll be, something that, again, I could prevent them from winning a title. You look at the kinds of teams that they're probably going to be playing against in the finals. If they make it there, as I expect them to, they're going to have to deal with pick and roll. And imagine that's, LeBron James. And that's LeBron James is the ball handler. Maybe Devin Booker or Jamal Murray or Steph. Every team that they're going to play against is going to have guys who can go at that and exploit it. And if they aren't better, it's going to be a problem. I think what we saw from Boston's defense last year that made them so good, and not just good, but historically good, was that, Jaylen Brown is the worst defender in their starting five, but Jaylen Brown was still, defending at a high level. And right now he is not. That's something that just has to change.
And there's a lot that's going on circulating in the media right now about him being happy there. I don't know a lot of details surrounding that, but essentially how he's been the last couple of off seasons and free agency trade deadlines. He's been in those rumors of being able to leave that team in trade discussions, and the team, he's on the table as an option. There's been reports that he had essentially Jason Tatum had to go talk to him to get reassurance that, they want him on this team. So I'm not saying there's internal problems with this team, nothing like practically any other team that can go through this situation. I'm not saying that is affecting their play, but this team doesn't play with the same defensive intensity like they did last year. It's just full on display. Um, it seemed like they focus more on that offensive end as opposed to the way that the Celtics got to the finals last year. Is that they were an amazing offensive team, but they also matched that intensity by being the number one defense in the NBA. So we're not seeing that now. I don't know if that's the coaching change. I don't know if his styles are different. We're hearing a lot that he's having a lot of plays that are random. The coach that they have now, that he doesn't have a lot of set plays. I don't know how much I agree with that, because I've seen Boston run set plays on numerous occasions in the previous series. I just don't know if this organization don't get to an NBA Finals and potentially win it when your biggest threat in the conference is Giannis and he's not there. I just don't know where this team, presently constructed, goes from here after this season. It's hard for me to believe that the team will be intact fully the way it is now if this becomes a failure of a season by our definition. I'm not saying they look at it as a failure, but Giannis got everybody thinking about different definition of failure.
So would that be like losing before the finals, or do you think if they get to the finals and lose again, is that something that they could, potentially blow up because of that, or?
If they don't get there, I think they will look at it as a failure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you have to win it, because I don't think the Eastern Conference team is winning the finals. I think whoever comes out of the West is winning. So I'm not saying you have to win it, but I will look at it as a failure if I got bounced out this round by the Philadelphia 76ers, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that they have the expectation to not only get there this year, but to win it. So if they fall short of that, I think it would be a disappointment. If they lose in this series, I think it would be a failure. I think you have to at least get to the conference finals, if not the finals. But I will say that I agree with you guys on that defensive intensity. They allowed the 76ers to shoot like 50% in game one, 44% from three. They didn't really have a lot of ball pressure. And then Tunde, like you were saying, Harden, Max, who were able to get those switches. Harden, the game-winning three was a switch that he got on Horford, so they were definitely hunting those down the stretch. I think Harden had like 15 points in the fourth quarter, I believe. So I don't know. I think that defensive intensity is something that we have to watch. I don't know if it's the fact that, Joe Mazzulla is the new head coach. I think there's, probably multiple factors that go into the fact that they aren't as good of a defensive team as last year. But I don't know that if they had Ime Udoka that they would be at the same level. Like you just never know. So I think it is a factor, Joe Mazzulla being in there, but to me it's just more about the defensive intensity. I also did want to talk about that game with you guys, the Malcolm Brogdon turnover. I wanted to see what you guys thought about that play. I believe the Celtics were up by one in the final minute, and he threw it away to Tyrese Maxey. He finished on the other end to give them a 1 point lead. That's something that we don't see, from an NBA player a lot. A mistake like that with the game on the line. The Celtics were able to get the lead back, and then they obviously eventually lost. But what did you guys think of that play?
If somebody did that and you was at a run, we would all start yelling like he's with us.
Yeah.
No,
That's bad. There's no other way to put it. That was bad. The possession wasn't headed down, a good path anyway. The fact that he threw the ball directly to Tyrese Maxey, that's like, oh man, that's like 1983 national championship bad.
Yeah, Freddie Brown, right?
Yeah. Threw the ball away, and UNC won the title.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. Can't do that. You can't do that ever. That shouldn't never happen. And then in that situation, that's just bad. And then again, I mean, it's a bad play. I mean, it's not the reason they lost the game. There's so many other things that went wrong, and they did have a chance to get a stop at the end, and couldn't with Harden hitting that three in Al Horford's face. But that's an ugly play right there.
I'm almost wondering if someone missed an assignment on offense. Someone was supposed to be there. He was supposed to kick it out to someone on a perimeter. Someone might have missed an assignment. Some probably got caught up. I have to go back and look at the specific play, like all of the other elements around it, not just him. But maybe someone got caught on the screen or whatever the case may be. But if he just went into the paint and just obviously he did that, just went out and threw it. But if he had every intention of just doing that, like he's definitely with us for sure. Yeah. Like there's really no excuse for that. So I didn't determine the outcome of the game. It was a boneheaded play. It's one of those where if that's the reason why you lose, you're looking at that like, damn. You're looking at that in a completely different light if that cost you the game, but obviously they made other decisions that led to them losing that game. So I can't fully, put that situation on Brockton or because they lost. They just didn't play with the same intensity that we're used to seeing them playing with. And it showed in the fourth quarter. Maybe it's Jaylen Brown's a mask. Maybe he just don't play good with a mask.
While you mentioned Jaylen Brown, I did want to get to him too because he got hot in that first quarter. I think he had like 14 points maybe to start that first quarter, and then he had like 3 shots the rest of the game, I believe. So we talked about his defensive struggles, but what did you guys think of his kind of lack of offense? He wasn't really getting a lot of looks down in that second half, especially down the stretch.
I mean, he probably should. He probably should touch the ball more often than he did. Like you said, especially in the second half, especially after the first quarter he had. But I don't know. I also do think that Jaylen Brown is enough of a featured guy on this Celtics roster that if he really is of the opinion that he should have the ball, it's probably nothing to it for him to go get the ball. For him to go get the ball and call for pick and roll or whatever, and have everyone play off of that. So some of him not getting the ball, it kind of has to be on him. And again, like, not having the ball isn't a reason to not. That's not a reason why you should be getting clipped by every screen that they run you through.
So yeah, some of that is just about effort, from him, fighting to get open for the ball. So I agree with almost everything that Tunde said about that. I would just say to win your matchup, essentially. Like, I believe Maxi maybe is the one guarding him right now. I'm not sure because I'm a little delayed. But win your matchup, the person that's guarding you. I'm not saying that you're supposed to score on everyone, Maxi's every single time, but win your individual matchup. And another thing about that is just being able to go ask for the ball, like Tunde said. Like, they're not going to stop you from getting the ball. They're not going to say, yeah, Jaylen, you can't get the ball. Like, sometimes just demand the ball, you know, and that's okay from a lead guy, your second lead guy on a contending team.
Yeah, it seems like late in the games, obviously Tatum is going to be the one with the ball a lot, but it seems like they defer to Marcus Smart more than they do Jaylen Brown. And Smart did have a good fourth quarter. He had a couple of big buckets, including one that I think put them up by 4 with like 2 minutes left. I thought that was going to be the one to seal it. Um, and then Tyrese Maxey came right back in the other end and got an and one himself. And I want to talk about Tyrese Maxey before we move on to these other series. He was huge in that game, 26 points, hit a couple of big threes down the stretch. And then not to mention that 3-point play that he had that got them back within one after I thought the Celtics kind of stretched it out a little bit. So what did you guys think from Maxi's game? I think the 76ers really needed that without Embiid.
So, I mean, first off, Marcus Smart is kind of a wild boy when it comes to decision making. So I think that has a lot to do with what you're talking about with the fourth quarter decision making. He could be playing on a team with Michael Jordan, LeBron, and Kevin Durant, and he would still be like, it's Marcus Smart time.
And he'd be off that team too.
Yeah, they'd probably jump him in the locker room, but I don't think it would change who he is.
Now he'd just be without a job. That's what that is. Yeah, he'd just be without a job.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And Chaz, I want to make sure I'm answering the question that you asked. If you could pose it to me one more time.
Yeah, just Tyrese Maxey's impact in that game one. I thought he was really needed without Embiid.
I thought so too. I think everybody, I think everybody kind of took things up a notch, especially the perimeter guys, knowing that there's going to be a little bit more of a shot creation burden on them with Joel Embiid not being there. They're fairly well equipped to handle something like that, like James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, and they did a hell of a job. Paul Reed was huge in that game as well. Want to make sure I shout him out.
Yeah, LeBron just tried to catch a body there. He just tried to dunk on him. He tried to,
Almost got Embiid,
he
yeah.
tried to put Embiid on a poster. Shit.
So we're gonna get to this game two in a minute. Celtics up 42-33 right now, about midway through the second quarter. But yeah, Tune, you're exactly right about Paul Reed. 10 points, 13 rebounds, 4 for 4 from the line in that final minute, which was huge, including the two in the final seconds to put it away. And then Tobias Harris, he was also big, hit a big three, had a big drive late in the game as well. And then DeAnthony Melton off the bench too. So the 76ers, they needed a few extra guys to step up, and I thought they really got that without Embiid. Danny, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I think what I think we've seen throughout this whole playoff series, not just this series but last series, I think Maxey is proven that he is solidified as a at best third best player on the championship team, but at times he could be the second.
Yeah.
If you need him to. I think that's him. He's the third best player on the championship contending team, and sometimes he could be the second best player on the championship contending team, depending on the situation and the circumstances. Because he can get hot at any time. He can make tough shots. He knows how to attack the basket. He can shoot threes. He has the makeup of a second option at times, but I believe that he is a third star on a championship team. He is a star for sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He's one of my favorite young players to watch in the league. His speed, his pace is just so hard to keep up with. And like you said, he can hurt you from outside, inside. He's a good passer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was really big in that game one. And just at 22 years old, he's only going to continue to get better. So I feel like he's got one of the brightest futures for a young guard in the league.
Absolutely.
So I think we're gonna jump. You guys want to talk Embiid MVP, and then we can get into this game too.
Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, shout out to Joel Embiid for winning MVP. You know, first African born player to do that since Dream. Uh, shout out to Akeem Olajuwon. I think I've mentioned this to you guys that I actually know his daughter.
I don't know that you have.
Have I not brought that up?
We got to hear that story.
Oh, I mean, it's not too much of a story. I did scout team in college for
Mhm.
the women's basketball team where I went to school, and she was the assistant coach. She was one of the assistant coaches. This is probably going to be a great shock to everybody, but she was in charge of the post players.
Hold on, you talking about Hakeem's daughter or Joel's daughter?
Akeem Olajuwon.
Oh.
Joel Embiid has a kid, and Joel Embiid's kid is like 2 years old.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't know if you're talking about Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Akeem Olajuwon's daughter.
Yeah.
She was cool as hell, good people. She was also a hell of a basketball player. And again, this is probably going to be very surprising to you all. Crazy footwork.
Learn from the best.
She literally learned from the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think you guys know I had Giannis as my MVP. All that being said, like I think we all kind of knew this was the result we were going to get. All three guys in question were deserving candidates. I think in a lot of ways this award was given to Joel Embiid because people felt like it was his turn, which again, he's a deserving candidate. So, all right, fine. I think the discourse around the MVP award was exhausting and so annoying. And so I'm kind of happy we can just be done with it.
Yeah, it's definitely more so than ever a story award. Who's having the best story? That's this award nowadays. They get too tired of you. They're not going to give Jokic 3 straight MVPs. They didn't give Jordan 3 straight MVPs. So, I mean, it's the narrative. And Joel Embiid had the best narrative. He's been snubbed the last 2 seasons. He's came in runner-up the last 2 seasons, quote unquote. I think he deserved it last year, but we're not going to talk about that. But he definitely deserved it this year. So kudos to him. I have really nothing else to say. Giannis was always going to be a third. place, in my opinion, because he's already won it back to back. So tip your head out to Joel Embiid. Congratulations.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, for a guy that just started playing basketball like what 12, 13 years ago, it's pretty remarkable that he is NBA MVP. And a guy that has been in the race the last couple of years. I agree with you, Tunde, that I feel like the discourse got really negative this season, and it was kind of like whoever's fan base was just kind of trying to tear down the other guy. When in reality we had three guys that were all playing at the highest level in the sport. And
And they all are three of the top 10 players in this league.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
a
no doubt
win is a
about that.
win. There's no losing, when it
Yeah.
comes to that.
Yeah, and Embiid averaged, 33.1 points per game, 10.2 rebounds, led the league in scoring. So I don't think there's people that are saying he didn't deserve it. Other people might lean somebody else, but I think we're all happy for Embiid. Um, and sorry, 1 second. Shit, my bad. Can you guys go real quick? I got to take a second.
Yeah, for sure. You
Just keep
talking
going.
about Joel Embiid MVP still?
Yeah, just keep going. I'll be right back.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah. So what to you, Tunde, what was the turning point that you decided to say, well, you believe that Giannis deserved it over the eventual winner Embiid? What was that factor?
I mean, I think part of it, funnily enough, is what we saw from them in the playoffs, that they got booted out, and how you saw, they looked with Giannis not being himself, um, not being fully healthy. Like, that's part of it. That roster has flaws and issues, namely like a lack of athleticism, and especially on the wings. And that was the team that had the best record in the regular season.
Yeah.
They had the best record in the regular season because of Giannis's two-way brilliance. He, he is the drink, the stir, buddy, the straw that stirs the drink for them both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Was phenomenal offensively, very efficient, and defensively was just brilliant. I think it was just the guy who was the best combination of everything to me. When we look at like the amount of minutes they played, and then we look at like the amount of games they played, that goes to that would have gone to Nikola Jokic, as it pretty much always does. It's an underrated thing where people are always complaining about Nikola Jokic and why, he's gonna, for a lot of the season he was people's leader for this award, and people were complaining about it. I don't know, like, I guess I personally don't get why we got to explain this to people, but getting hurt and missing large chunks of the season makes you less likely to win end of season awards. So, like, Joel Embiid, one of the reasons why he hasn't won MVP is because, he usually misses somewhere around 20 games. Nikola Jokic doesn't really get hurt. He doesn't really miss games. And so you get night in, night out elite performance that's going to have you, that's going to have you up there for awards like MVP and, all NBA. But yeah, that's what it was for me with Giannis. I think I would have had Nikola Jokic as my winner had Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets not more or less mailed it in for the last month plus of the season.
Yeah.
And everyone was talking about the defense. Nikola Jokic has defended at a really high level this postseason. It was always really clear that it was an effort thing. This is the same thing the Lakers did in 2020 when they had the warm-up games in the bubble, and people were saying, oh, what's wrong with the Lakers? And I know we might have forgotten this. A lot of people picked Portland to beat them in that first round, which was always fucking crazy. But yeah, sometimes like you can usually tell when teams are mailing it in, and Denver's mailing it in. So I'm fine with Jokic not winning the MVP. I personally do think Giannis was would have been the guy, but it's hard not to say It's hard to say Joel Embiid wasn't deserving. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I will say I wish he did a little bit less public campaigning for the award, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that a lot of that comes from, I guess, getting snubbed. You could tell that it means a lot to him. You know, this award means a lot to him. I don't know how much it means to Jokic. You know, I
Not
get
at
the sense
all.
that I think I get the sense that Jokic just wants to win. You know,
if you
title.
believe Nikola Jokic, like it doesn't mean anything to him, like you said,
Yeah.
Chaz.
Yeah. I mean, I will. I think it has. I mean, I think it means something to him. Obviously, getting one of the highest honors in your profession, your job. I think it means something, but I don't think it nearly means as much to Jokic as it does Embiid. I mean, MP, like you said, Embiid campaigned for this, so it really means a lot to him. So I'm glad he finally got over that and got it. So maybe he can go out and deliver the Sixers championship now. So.
What did you guys think of the voting? I think Embiid had 75 first place votes, Jokic 15, Giannis 12. It was a bigger gap than I was expecting. What about you guys?
Okay.
Whoever left Nikola Jokic off their ballot completely
Crazy.
should not be allowed to vote for this award ever again. That was honestly was my first thought about the voting. Um, other than that, I mean, I think it's pretty much about what we expected, right? You had a few interesting votes in there. Jimmy Butler, I think, got a fifth place vote. Ja Morant got, I think, a fifth place vote. But yeah, aside from that, I think it's about what we expected.
Yeah, I think Ja got a vote. Steph got a vote. Um,
Jalen Brunson did,
got
I
a
think.
vote. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
I think Jalen Brunson did too.
Brunson got
Yeah, yeah.
one. Absolutely. Um, so again, I'm not a proponent of whether he should have lost it or won it. I mean, I believe he deserved to win it. If I had my money, if I had my bet, it would have went to Jokic. But I'm not. Again, I'm not a proponent of him winning. Um, it well deserved again to Joel Embiid for sure.
So you guys both thought that Giannis was kind of leader in the pack, but you both would have given it to Jokic in the end.
I would have given it to Giannis. What I
Oh,
said is that I would have given. I think I ultimately probably would have given the award to Jokic had Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets not mailed in the last like month plus of the season.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And then fourth place Jason Tatum, fifth place Jay Gilgeous Alexander. What did you guys think about those guys finishing fourth and fifth? Is that about right to you?
Uh, I think Tatum would have been fourth for me.
Yeah.
I think fifth. I think we could have talked about that a little bit. I'm not sure where you go. I do think that I guess from my perspective, I'm not sure that not Jason Tatum. I'm not sure that Shea would have been fifth for me. I think I would have been. I think off the top of my head would have been inclined to look at guys like De'Aaron Fox and like yeah, like I would have been inclined to look at guys like De'Aaron Fox and Julius Randle, just personally. Um, but Shea had a hell of a season, so.
Yeah, no doubt. Danny, you got anything to add on MVP before we move on?
Um, no, I think we cover all our bases there. I just want to say again, congratulations to the three. I think they all had a other than I think they all had a argument, I would say. Um, I know some of these situations come down to it comes down to top three, of course, but sometimes that third one really don't really got an argument for that award. But I would just probably genuinely in the last maybe 5, 10 years or so that I would genuinely would have been okay with any one of them receiving this award. Like, you wouldn't have got any complaint from me, honestly. So
Yeah, same here. And I kind of hope that now that all three of those guys do have one, that we don't have this type of discourse that we have these last 2 years. Like I said, it's just been negative and kind of unnecessary in my opinion. And with all the great basketball, I feel like it should just be more of a celebration rather than trying to bring somebody else down because of their analytics or just because, you know, you're a fan of the other guy or whatever. So I think maybe next season we're going to have more of like a clean, you know, and fun type of MVP race.